5, 16, 19, 21, 33, and 10. Check results. You remember?
1, 2, 7. Put a day, kids look away. I believe it's 127. And massively, mainly, pretty much only, going to be talking about Jackman. I'm now leaning towards saying Jackman because I didn't even realize that's a name. You know, Maximilian. It can happen. Peregrine. Yep. Barry, Bartholomew. Who knew Jack had a long version? Jackman. That is a genuine first name. I had to Google it. It is. So Jackman I'm going to go with because I don't think anyone's been called Jackman as a name. So Jackman. I listened to it. I'm mainly going to be speaking about it because I would say I like Jack's music. I will say that. And I will also say that Come Home, The Kids Miss You was an album that, although it gets a lot of hate for being maybe a bit bland, a bit cringe and corny, a bit of a letdown, a bit of a disappointment basically, it is an album that has more anthems on it than this album. But, you know, for all those, you know, few anthems, because if even that being said, it probably only has 3. But, you know, it's got Dua Lipa, it's got, you know, First Class, and it's got Churchill Downs. They're probably his big ones, right? They're the ones bringing all the streams. And this song, this album hasn't really got that. But a lot of people prefer this, and I think that, you know, that says a lot. You know, an album, let's say 10 songs on it, 3 anthems, but the rest are just sort of, you know, what they were. Or this, you know, a lot of people are going to take this. Obviously, you're going to win over the people. You might not win over the numbers, but you're going to win over the people. You might not win over the masses. You might not get any more famous. You might not get any more Instagram followers, but you're going to win a lot of respect, which I think he actually cares about, to be honest. I think he cares a lot about how, kind of what people think, which I don't think necessarily a bad thing if you're trying to be the best at something, you're trying to get there. And I think I'm going to talk about these in like a random order. Like, there ain't going to be no chronologicalness to this shit. But like, for example, It Can't Be, track 8, where it's kind of his most flexing song on here, because a lot of these songs are introspective or talking about stories and stuff. And on that one, he's kind of like bigging himself up. Like, he's kind of saying, no, I do deserve to be here, and this is why. And it's not just because of these reasons, it's because of all these reasons, right? And I've listened to like a couple people react to this album, so I kind of have heard a couple of thoughts. I read through Twitter. Twitter's a lot more positive and then like actual YouTube reactions to the album, I would say. But I think if you like Jack Harlow, and you believe in his future, and you hear It Can't Be, you're more open to it. When he has got something to prove to you and you don't hold into a high regard, it sounds delusional, or it sounds like just not true. A lot of people feel this about Lil Dicky, the way Lil Dicky goes on, how he genuinely feels he's like one of the greatest rappers alive or whatever. I kind of said it in the way he says it. I feel like I'm like genuinely like one of the greatest rappers alive. But like, you know, he always says that, and like a lot of people like find inherently songs where you big yourself up for all these different reasons, right? And you call yourself the greatest and you feel like you're the best in this genre or field or whatever, cringy and corny, because they think, well, no, this guy's better than you, this guy's better than you, I prefer this guy, your music doesn't touch this guy. Like, this is your version of this album from this great artist, this is your comeback album, which is your version of like this version from this artist, whatever. But like, even though this is your insert album here, it's still not like, I don't really listen to Kendrick Lamar, right? But say you wanted to say, oh, this is Jack Harlow's To Pimp a Butterfly or something, it's like, that can be a true statement. It doesn't mean the album is anywhere near as good as that album, or like close or whatever. You're just saying it's his version of that, right? And that's not an opinion made by me. That's just stuff I've read on Twitter, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, a lot of people, when they talk about songs they like from him, it is like the people who like it want him to prove himself as a rapper, right? It is those River Roads type songs from like, is that Confetti? Stuff like that. And this kind of feels like an album of majority. That don't sound right. River Roads, basically. A lot of tracks like that. A lot of reflecting, kind of. And it's like, look, you can tell he makes a couple lyrics that sort of refer to it. He read a lot and he heard a lot. And it's like, you know what's awful about releasing this album and then it getting a bunch of backlash and everyone saying it's shit and stuff and saying you're washed, you're fell off, you're overrated basically instantly? it's like immediately you probably want to get back in the studio and work on something new. But like, you know what I can guarantee you, in a way, was like bittersweet and maybe even just bitter, is the fact he got nominated for a Grammy. Because to like, that's only gonna put more eyes on you. It's only gonna make people say, why is this in here? This industry plant bullshit crap. Why is this in here when this album was so much better? This album was so much better. Why is this here? And then the fear. Let me guarantee the fear that you might win it. And like winning the Grammy, oh my god, that's gonna feel so amazing. That's so insane. I just won my first Grammy. I think it would be right. Oh my god, this is so cool. This is such a great achievement. And it was for like it's an album Grammy. It's not just like for like a song or something. This feels amazing, like, but it's tarnished by the fact that I won it for an album everyone thinks is shit, shouldn't even have been nominated, and I beat out Kendrick Lamar's album, who everyone thinks is numerous times better. It's like, I feel like the Grammy nomination and everything around that just kind of piled on to like how like bad the criticism and like it would have been just without it. And I think he wanted to come here and prove so. Another bit of criticism I see, right, is people listen to this and being like, it's just alright, like it's okay, like it's pretty good, but like I'm not gonna take much from it. Maybe there's not much replayability, stuff like that. Which I think can be true. You're not an introspective track, really, or a track talking on a very specific subject matter. Even if it sounds good, it's very rare you're gonna replay it unless you either like only you relate to it. If you relate to the insecurities he's talking about on the track, or you relate to the particular story he's talking about, and you're like, oh yeah, and then it has something for you, there's a reason to go back to it. Otherwise, it's something you just listen to, say, that was really well done, that was a good bit of subject matter, and it done it well, therefore well done, good album, no skips. For example, I listen to a lot of Hive Mind. I watched a lot of Hive Mind, the YouTube channel, and their friend Kodaka released an album, obviously very different to this album, but what was it called? I can't even remember what it's called. Kodaka's album, but they loved it. They were saying it was like one of the best albums they heard that year, right? That being said, if you ask them, do you have any of these songs in their playlist? And they'd maybe say a couple. Do you listen to this album back? No. They listen to it on stream, right? They listen to the songs before they came out and stuff, and they're like, listen to it as a whole thing. Wow, this is really good. This is a great piece of work. We think it's one of the best albums of the year. Am I going to listen to much of it again? No. And I think another thing, and the final thing, I'd preface, is that he has a particular style. You know, he's gonna talk, and it's not exactly wordplay. It's not exactly quadruple entendres or whatever, but it's maybe a couple clever lines here and there, a couple corny lines here and there, a couple lines here that maybe make your ear go when he says something a little bit too graphic or something here or there, a little bit too blunt. But it's gonna be smooth and it's gonna be specific to like where he grew up, and it's gonna paint a good picture. And I think if you look at some artists where they can do these they can do these varying deliveries and stuff in the audio, they can like harmonize in their voice, they can sing choruses and then go into verses, and they can like do cool bridges and just do crazy structured things. He's not really going to offer you that in that sense. He's going to offer you, a smoother, well, a lot of people say more stale, because it's more just like straight and narrow song. Then obviously someone like, Kid Cudi would, or Kanye, obviously. I mean, it goes without saying, but I don't listen to so much music, so I gotta pick what I can. But it's like, I listened to an album where he was saying there was actually a lot of Kanye influence in those beats, but obviously you're not gonna have the same sort of dynamistic stuff in there. Okay, that being said, I think this was good. I think this was like a solid 7, 8 out of 10. I think it is a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10, because I think with an album, you got to go into it. Like, if you go into like pretty much any artist's album, it depends. Like, how do you want to rate these things? Do you rate it off of the fact how many you're going to take off the album and put into a playlist? Do you rate it off of how replayable it is and stuff, or like, because there's so many albums out there that like are great, but whether it's because the subject matter is like really harsh, or because it's really sad, or because it's whatever it is, they're just really long tracks. You listen to it like once and be like, that was really good. I personally, if I like, don't rewatch films really. Like I'll rewatch a film if if someone else I don't know hasn't seen it, because it's like I'm kind of watching it for the first time through their eyes, and there's a conversation that can be had. But like, what was my favorite film I've seen last year? Dune. I like Dune a lot. That was 2 years ago. No Way Home. I was really gassed when I saw that in cinema. Um, I just watched Knives Out today on Netflix. Haven't seen Dune since I saw it in cinemas. It's been on streaming, obviously. Haven't seen No Way Home since it was out. Seen Knives Out today, liked it. Probably will never watch it again. You know what I mean? Like, I like all these things. Tick, tick, boom, seen that, liked it. I won't watch them again. Like, I've seen it now. I know it, but you know what I mean? So, obviously, it's different with a song. They're 3-minute song compared to like a 2.5 hour thing. But, yeah, I think the only bad... I mean, there's songs in here where he kind of has... The title of the song is, like, repeated throughout the song a lot, and that's, like, a heavy thing he does. Like, he's either going on a big old sort of introspective thing, or he's doing that. So, for example, is that it can't be, like, he goes through the song repeating the word, like, is that I saying something else, is that I, it can't be this, can't be that, going through and saying those things. And I think those are probably the ones that are the most Come Home the Kids Miss You ones on the track. Not that they're bad, but I think Common Ground is a really good intro. I think They Don't Love It is solid. Ambitious is... I need to re-listen to it, if I'm honest, because I can't remember. I think Gang, Denver is a really solid middle. No Enhancers and It Can't Be, I think... Or if I had to guess right now, I'd say Is That I, No Enhancers, and It Can't Be are probably the weaker ones. Blame on Me Again is I would say it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting concept, and then Questions again. And I think that's what you want. It's kind of like when Brockhampton dropped the final two albums, TM and The Family. And it's like, what a lot of people wanted was like closure. Like from an old past flame. You know? It's wanted closure. And when you got Kevin Abstract saying, yeah, we did have arguments here, we did do this, that happened there, I did make that mistake and this and that. Less so TM, because TM's like old songs put together for an album, but on The Family and stuff, it's kind of like people who love Brockhampton love it because it's like, oh my god, we're getting an insight into this and that and this and that. I like the album, spoiler. Jackman's similar. It's his name, he's talking about himself. It's one of those albums, like, yeah. So I think therefore ranking it off of, or is there any like, there's no What's Poppin' in here, there's no like First Class in here. It's like, yeah, it's called Jackman, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of just about the thoughts past year, past, however old it is, 25 years, whatever. And I can't check all these albums, but I think it almost, maybe he didn't feel in the mood to put any even attempts at like quote unquote bangers in there, quote unquote chart topping type of songs in there, just out of like even fear, or just because he wasn't in the mood because of his mood in general since the last album went out and things like that. Any like sort of personal things that we don't know about. But I think this album, and you take out the 3 songs I mentioned before that weren't great, and you chuck in, the first class, you chuck in the Churchill Downs, you chuck in the What's Poppin' into those gaps on this album, and you would have easily really, 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 really good album and his best. Even songs from That's What They All Say, on like the best ones from That's What They All Say, if you chucked a couple of those on here, then you'd have what is regarded by everyone as like really, really solid. I think he just needs to find the right mix and the right balance and the right production, because on this production I think he's really good. But yeah, like with an album named after your name, and it's like, I'm just gonna spit my mind and prove that I actually can spit anything that doesn't sound like dog shit, and prove to people that I can, because this was about talking my shit and talking my shit well, so people know that I can do it, so I'm allowed to have misses, and people know that I'm not just a miss in general. Out of all of his albums, where would I rank it? I mean, I can't... obviously, I've not listened to all of them. I've not listened to like 18, which I think is one of them. There's probably ones prior. like out of his 3 studio albums, first of all, um, is it better than That's What They All Say? I mean, That's What They All Say would have more songs than I'd listen to. Obviously, it has more of the replayable ones. Is he doing a better job? I think it sits on a level playing field. That's What They All Say, for different reasons. He's doing a completely different thing, and they're both like on top of Come Home and the Kids Miss You. I think, I mean, Come Home the Kids Miss You is probably right in it. It's honestly not as bad as people say. Like, it's bad in general as a whole album, but when it's got 3 songs on there that are like pretty good and doing pretty well and stuff, I think to say it's like the worst album he put out is just not true. Like, and I like Sweet Action, which is like more of an EP. I like Gazebo and Confetti and all these, but there is a high level of just production in general and just like certain quality on that. The highs are higher, I guess. I think Jackman, trying to rank it where in there, it's in his top 3. I'd say that, and I'd say he needed a bit. All he needed to do was prove to people he could rap with this. He didn't need to get zero, and he could get not a single number 1. He didn't need to hit a target with sales. He didn't need to do anything. He just needed to prove to people who were coming to check this out to see if he had anything about him, to prove that he wasn't gonna be Macklemore or insert random white rapper there. But yeah, I would say there's nothing on there that's like, I think a lot of, like, again, Hive Minds, but when I watched that video of them talking about Come Home, the Kids Miss You, there's so many lines in there that they can pick out and say, crick. Like, this one, on the top of my mind, like, there's just nowhere near as much, but on the top of my mind, of the ones I can remember, it's probably, what's the one he says? I don't even want to say it out loud because everyone's can hear me, but I'm coming in my girl like I'm sterile. Coming in my girl like I'm sterile. Just too, you know what I mean? Just way too descriptive. You just don't. We don't need to picture that Jack Harlow. That's probably one, and then I don't know. On Gang Gang Gang, I think I like that song. I like the message of it. I think it's one of those things you're either going to be on board with it and kind of get it, or just be like, this is dumb and stupid and shit. But I think the only thing I'd say about that is, like, when delivering, and I guess you wanted it to feel, because I see both sides of it. Like, when it's like, oh, you hear about Kevin sending messages to 10-year-old kids. Apparently they're saying he molested them and stuff, and like apparently he's been doing pedophile shit and stuff. It's like, I feel like it would have came across less harsh to the ears and maybe a little bit better if he just said like, oh yeah, Kevin, he was texting minors and this and that, or like that. Like, it would have just came across less like, I can't just, like, in the song, just like, it was very matter of fact the way he said it and stuff. But at the same time, if you're talking to someone like genuinely, which is what he's trying to convey in the thing, your friend isn't going to come up to you and be like, did you hear what happened? Kevin was sending indecent photos to minors, underage pupils, and Feng got caught sexual assault. Like, you're just going to say, like, because obviously rape, like, I think if you say that in a YouTube video, you usually got to bleep it out because it'll get you demonetized type thing. Like, it's not a swear, it's not a slur, but like, it'll get you demonetized type thing. So that is, when you hear it, it's going to be harsh on your ears and stuff. But at the same time, when you're just talking to people casually, like, this thing happened here and here, you just say it as it is. So like, I think it fits better with the concept of the song, but maybe at detriment to the sound for most people's ears. They want to like listen to something regularly. But I think this will be a step in the right direction, a good step. And I think if you can produce something of the same level and then just chuck in a couple Churchill Downses or whatever's, because obviously there's no features on this either. There might be like some in there that I'm not, like, that aren't named, but something like that. Because obviously in the last one he just went for the features. Like, it was Drake, it was Pharrell Williams. Yeah, Pharrell Williams. For some reason that doesn't sound right, but I'm pretty sure that's his name. It was Lil Wayne, right? And JT, Justin Timberlake. So like, really going for it. But like you said, unlike another song I heard, he's trying to feed the fam, he's trying to feed the brothers and sisters. But yeah, I like it. I like it, and I think the people who listen to it will like it, and they'll get their questions answered, basically, to round that all up. And it gives me hope. I was nervous because it really was make or break. Everyone was kind of saying that. I was like, this is make or break for you, man. No, what's your play? And I look forward to the next thing now. I look forward to the next thing. This was nice as well. It came out of nowhere, and it came out like 2 days after he announced it, so that was nice. That is all. This was 127. You'll see you in 128, no laddie.
Here with the kids, and I've got 3 kids, and the geezer was probably on like maximum 20 bags a year. Like the most boring bloke you'll ever meet. He was like,